Hello students, I am Shahnaz and today I will start a new chapter of biology, that is lesson number 6, tissue. Students, in this chapter we will study about plant tissues and animal tissues. There are so many types of tissues in our body and even in plant body, and all the tissues perform various functions to uh, help us work. Now, you know, in the previous chapter we have studied about unicellular organism. In unicellular organism, a single cell perform all the basic life activities such as respiration, uh, taking in food, that is ingestion, excretion, digestion. All these basic functions are performed by a single cell, and that is why such cells are called unicellular or such organisms are called unicellular organism. But in multicellular organisms there are number of cells, there are many cells. So in multicellular organisms we can see division of labor, that is each cell perform a particular function uh, efficiently, and such cells are grouped together and it is called a tissue. So basically a group of cell is called tissue, but there is some specification. A group of cell performing similar functions, and they are similar in structure, or you can say a group of cell that are similar in structure and origin and perform a similar function is known as tissue. What is the use of this tissue? So in multicellular organisms have millions of cells, and each group of cell is called tissue, and it performs a special function efficiently. That is, muscle cell contract and relax to bring movement. Nervous cell, they carry special functions, they carry messages, and blood, they carry oxygen, carbon dioxide, waste material, that is they do the function of transportation. Same way in plants also there are vascular tissue, that is xylem and phloem, they uh, transport food and water. So in multicellular organisms they show division of labor. Cells of multicellular organisms or group of cells of multicellular organisms, they show division of labor, and that is to work efficiently. So we can say a group of cell forms a tissue, a group of tissue forms organ, and a group of organ forms organ system. And because of the combination and working of all this, our body functions properly. As I told you that in this chapter we will study about plant tissue and animal tissue. But one question arises in my mind. Okay, do all the plants tissue and animal tissue are same? Do plants and animals, they function by the same types of tissue? No. Why? Because the due to the difference in the structure and function of plants and animals, they are made up of different types of tissue. Plants are stationary, whereas animals, they continuously move. So the cells or tissues which are required by the plants are mostly not living, they are dead, whereas the tissues required by the plants are living tissues, they are made up of living cells. So here we will study the difference between plant tissue and animal tissue. First, in animal tissue, since animals are mobile means moving, so they require more energy, hence more living tissues are required. In the same way, plants are stationary, so they do not require much energy, hence more living tissues are not required. Then in animal move from one place to another in search of food, hence they need more energy and the tissues are living. In plants, most tissue provides structural strength. You see, the functions are different. In plants, they provide structural strength. Most of these tissues are dead and can provide mechanical strength as easy as the living ones and need less maintenance. In animals, Cell growth is uniformly distributed, whereas in plants, cell growth is not uniformly distributed. You must have seen the tip of the plants and tip of the roots, they grow, but other parts of the plants, they do not grow. So growth is restricted to only some part in plants, unlike animals. Now, structural organization of organs and organ system is more specialized and complex in animals, whereas structural organization of organs is comparatively less complex in plants. See, animals have to search their food, whereas plants, they prepare their food. So animals, they eat food, whereas plants make their food by the process of photosynthesis, and that food is transported to other parts of the plant by certain specific tissues. So there is a vast difference between the types of tissues present in animals and types of tissues present in plants. Meristematic tissue or meristem. As I told you that this tissue has power of cell division. It means cells of their this tissue are capable of cell division, or they are capable to divide. Now these tissues are present in such part of plant which grows. This tissue increases the length and girth of the plant and are found in growing area of plants. New cells that are produced by meristem are similar to the meristem, but as they grow, their characteristic change and they differentiate. Means initially the cells which are present are almost similar, and the new cells which are produced are also same as their parent cell, but after some time, it means later on, when they become permanent cells, they change and become cell of different type as per their function. Now, characteristic of meristematic tissue: the cells are active. The cells of meristematic tissues are active and living. Obviously they are living because they divide. So their cells are active, living. They have dense cytoplasm, thin cellulose wall, then prominent nuclei, and they lack vacuole, as the vacuole provide rigidity to the cell and prevent quick cell division. Now, as quick cell division goes on in this tissue, their vacuoles are absent. Otherwise, the cell will become rigid and it will not able to divide very quickly. Cell needs a dense cytoplasm and soft cell wall for the cell division. Obviously, if the cell is very thick and hard, it will not divide very quickly. So for quick cell division, cytoplasm is dense, cell wall is thin, and vacuoles are absent. Now we will discuss the types of meristematic tissue. There are three types of meristematic tissue: apical meristem, intercalary meristem, and lateral meristem. Now this meristematic tissue or meristems are located on a particular part of the plant, and accordingly they are named. First is apical meristem. This apical meristem is present on the tip of the plant and tip of the roots, and it provides vertical length to the plant. It is responsible for vertical growth of the plant. It means in the upper direction, that is stem grows in the upper direction, whereas roots grow in the downward direction. So as these meristematic tissues are present in the apex of the plant, it is called apical meristem. So it increases the length of the plant, and it increases and it is responsible for primary growth. Second is intercalary meristem. It is present at the base of the leaves or at nodes. It increases in the length of organs like leaves and internode. So intercalary meristem is present near the nodes of the plant and increases the length of the nodes, and it gives growth of the leaves. The third one is lateral meristem. It is found in woody area and woody trees and plants. Now on the sides of the stem and roots. So it is located on the sides of the stems and roots, and it is responsible to increase the girth, that is diameter of the plant. And so we say that it is responsible for secondary growth. Apical meristem is responsible for primary growth, whereas intercalary meristem is responsible for secondary growth. Permanent tissue. The tissue that comes from meristematic tissue and are matured, that is called permanent tissue. It means in permanent tissue vacuole is present, and permanent tissue has lost the power to divide. Mostly permanent tissue are either dead cells or are made up of dead cells or living cells. They have definite shape, size and function. The process by which cells arise from meristematic tissue and take up a permanent shape, size and function is called differentiation. Now permanent tissues are further classified into two parts, two types: simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. There are three types of simple permanent tissue, that is parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma, whereas there are two types of complex permanent tissue, that is xylem and phloem. All simple permanent tissues are made up of single type of cells, and in complex permanent tissues more than one type of cells are present. First we will see the types of simple permanent tissue. First one is parenchyma. Most of the cells of parenchyma are living cells. Parenchyma is the basic packing tissue that fills the space between other tissues and is found most abundant in plant. It has unspecialized, undifferentiated cells with thin cell wall and made up of cellulose. It has large intercellular spaces as the cells are loosely packed. Cells have nucleus, dense cytoplasm and large vacuoles. These are the characteristic of parenchyma. Now what about the functions of parenchyma? So parenchyma support to plant, it provides support to plant, and parenchyma of stem and roots store nutrients and water and is called storage parenchyma. When it contains chloroplast having chlorophyll and perform photosynthesis, it is called chlorenchyma. And in aquatic plants, they have air spaces to provide buoyancy, that is the ability of plant to float on water, and these type of parenchyma are known as erenchyma. So actually there are, we have seen three main functions of parenchyma. First of all, it stores food and water, so storage parenchyma. If it has chloroplast to perform photosynthesis, they are called chlorenchyma. And if it provide ability to float to the plants with, and if it contain air spaces, then it is called erenchyma. Now about collenchyma. Even the collenchyma possess living cell. The cells are elongated and irregularly thickened at the center, at the corners, and made up of cellulose or pectin. It have very less or no intercellular spaces, and cells have a nucleus, dense cytoplasm and large vacuoles. So you can see about intercellular spaces. In parenchyma large intercellular spaces are there, in collenchyma less intercellular spaces are there. Now about the function of collenchyma. It provides flexibility to the plant and it gives mechanical support to the aerial parts of the plants, and because of this collenchyma, when you bend the plant it will not break. Now about sclerenchyma. Now most of the cells of sclerenchyma are dead cell. They are also long narrow thick cell wall due to deposition of lignin. So the cell wall of sclerenchyma is thick, and there is deposition of lignin, which is a chemical substance which acts as a cement and hardens them, and that is why the sclerenchyma cells make the that part, that tissue hardens. Such cell walls are called lignified walls and have pits. There is no intercellular spaces due to lignin deposition, and cells do not have a nucleus and cytoplasm. So they are dead cells and there is no nucleus and cytoplasm in sclerenchyma. It gives rigidity and strength to the plant and make it hard, tough to be as stress and strain. So the most of the outer part of the plants and outer hard coating of the seed, in these places sclerenchyma is present. It is found in stems, around vascular bundles, in the veins of leaves. It is also present in the seed coat, husk of coconut, and it is also present in the shell of walnut. Epidermis. Now the term derm is related to the skin, is referred as skin. Now epidermis is, you can say it is like a skin of plant. When we observe epidermis under microscope, it's seen something like this, which is shown in the figure. Now epidermis is a protective layer whose main function is to protect the plant from excess hot or cold infections. Hot or cold and infection. It is made up of single layer of cell that are flat with no intercellular spaces. Their outer and side walls are thicker than their inner wall. In plants of dry habitat, the epidermis is thick and prevent water loss. It has a thick waxy coating called cutin, which act as a waterproof substance. In aerial part of the plant, epidermis secrete cutile, a waxy water resistant layer made up of cutin on their outer surface. This cuticle prevents loss of water. It gives mechanical, it protect the plant from mechanical injury and also from the invasion by parasitic fungi. Epidermal cell of the roots have long root hair which increases the surface area for the absorption of water. So we can see that epidermis is present in the various part of the plant, have some specific structure, and because of that it helps that part to do its function. For example, epidermis of a desert plant have thick waxy coating to prevent water loss. In the same way, in aerial part of the plant, waxy coating known as cutin is present, which prevent mechanical injury and invasion by parasitic fungi. And epidermis of roots have hair-like structure which increases the surface area for water absorption. This is the structure and function of epidermis as per the part as I have already explained you. Now stomata. What is stomata? You have already learned this thing in, I think, 7th or 8th standard. Yes, so stomata are tiny pores present in the leaves. So epidermis of leaf has pores, that is stomata, surrounded by two kidney shaped guard cell. And what is the function of stomata? Stomata is responsible for exchange of gases in plants, and it is also responsible for transpiration in plants. Now transpiration is actually loss of water in the form of water vapor. It helps in the conduction of water and minerals from the root to other part of the plant. Now that is one question: is the outer layer of branch of a tree different from the outer layer of a young stem? As the plant grow older, the outer protective layer called epidermis changes. We have seen that if you just feel the mature branch of an old tree, and if you feel a very delicate outer layer of younger stem, it's quite different, because in the tree it is epidermis is replaced by a secondary meristem which give new cells on both the sides. The cell on the outside are cut off from this layer. This forms the several layer thick cork or the bark of the tree. Cells of cork are dead and tightly arranged without intercellular spaces. They have a chemical called suberin in their walls which make them impervious to gases and water. So as compared to the outer layer of young stem, the outer layer of branch of tree is very hard and it consists of dead cells, and it is actually made up of cork cell. This cork cell does not have any intercellular spaces, and there is a special material called suberin which makes it impervious to gases and water. Another type of permanent tissue is complex permanent tissue. The name itself suggests that the word complex itself suggests that it is made up of more than one type of cells that have a common origin and work together to do a common function. In simple permanent tissue, all the tissue are made up of only single type of cell. Now, present in complex permanent tissues are present in complex plant and help a plant to survive in terrestrial environment. Terrestrial means land. Now there are two types of complex permanent tissues, that is xylem and phloem. Xylem is made up of four types of cell, that is tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem sclerenchyma, or it is known as xylem fiber. And phloem is made up of sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem parenchyma and phloem fiber. In phloem, sieve cells are also present. Both xylem and phloem are actually responsible for transportation. Xylem transport water from roots to the upper part of the plant, and in xylem the movement of water and mineral is from it is against gravitational force, so you can say it is unidirectional movement is found in xylem, whereas phloem is responsible for transportation of food, and thus it transports food from leaves to all the parts of the plant, or you can say in some plants other parts other than leaves also prepare food. So you know, all the green parts present in the plant prepare food, so phloem transport food from green part to non-green part of the plant. Now this both xylem and phloem, they are conducting tissue, and so they are called vascular tissue, and together they form vascular bundle. Now we'll see some more things about xylem and phloem. Xylem cells have thick walls. Elements, they are made up of tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem fiber. Vessels are most important elements and are shorter and wider than tracheids. Vessels are and tracheids have tube-like structure that helps in transporting water and minerals vertically efficiently. Xylem parenchyma stores food and help in lateral conduction of water. In addition to transporting water and mineral salt from roots to leaves, xylem also provides support to plant and trees because of its tough lignified vessels. Phloem. Elements of phloem are sieve tube, sieve cell, companion cell, phloem parenchyma and phloem fiber. The end walls are called sieve plates and are perforated due to presence of pores, as you can see in the figure. Phloem transport the prepared food from leaves to storage organs and from storage organs to growing region. Hence, material can move in both the direction in phloem. In the figure you can see, in xylem water and minerals are traveling only in the upward direction, whereas in phloem two directional movement is seen. They both provide xylem provides mechanical strength to the plant, whereas phloem conducts and give no mechanical strength to plant.
In order for a tree to carry out photosynthesis and maintain its overall health, Water and nutrients need to move throughout the entire tree, even against gravity. How does a plant manage this without an organ like a heart that pumps fluids? As we will see, water is pulled from the roots to the leaves through a process called transpiration. In addition, water potential drives the movement of water from one area of the plant to another using osmosis, gravity, and the surface tension of water. Transpiration begins in the leaves. The arrangement of cells and structures in the leaf facilitate the movement of gases and water into and out of the leaf. A leaf contains several layers of specialized cells. The upper epidermis is one cell layer thick and provides a protective covering. Below that layer is mesophyll tissue. Cells in the palisade mesophyll layer are sites for photosynthesis and secretion, as well as storage of food and water. The spongy mesophyll layer contains a looser arrangement of cells, where spaces between cells aid in gas exchange and the passage of water vapor from the leaves. Throughout the lower epidermal tissue are stomata, which are microscopic openings flanked by guard cells. Gases pass into and out of the leaf through these openings, as well as water vapor evaporating from the leaf, a process known as transpiration. The spongy mesophyll layer contains arrangements of vascular tissue, consisting of xylem and phloem, that are specialized for the transport of water and nutrients throughout the plant. The vascular tissue extends from the leaves, through the stem, to the roots. Water is transported in xylem from the roots, where the water potential is higher, up to the leaves, where the water potential is lower. The arrangement of the tissues, the functions of the cells, and water potential determine the direction in which water will move through a plant. Water passes out of the leaf as water vapor through the stomata. The water vapor lost from the leaves is replaced with water that enters through the roots and is brought up through the stem in xylem. Xylem is composed of vessels, which are continuous tubes formed from dead, hollow, cylindrical cells arranged end to end, and tracheids, which are dead cells that taper as the ends overlap. This arrangement and the polar nature of water molecules allow water to pass in an unbroken stream through the xylem, from the roots up through the shoot and into the leaves. Adhesion is the attraction of water molecules to a surface, such as the wall of the xylem. Cohesion is hydrogen bonding between water molecules. Together, adhesion and cohesion allow water to move through the xylem in a continuous stream, from the roots up through the stem to replace water lost from the leaves through the stomata. Water enters the plant through the epidermal cells of the roots and travels into the xylem. Water potential in the cells of the roots increases when symporter pumps in the plasma membrane allow protons to pass into the cell, traveling down their concentration gradient. These pumps couple the transport of protons with the transport of minerals and other solutes into the cell. Water follows into the cell, driven by osmosis. The presence of aquaporin channels in the membrane enhances osmosis, allowing bulk flow of water from the soil into the roots. The other main vascular tissue is phloem. Phloem transports carbohydrates and amino acids that are produced in the leaves to cells in the roots and stems where they are used and stored. Conduction in phloem is carried out through two kinds of elongated cells, sieve cells and sieve tube members. Most angiosperms contain sieve tube members. Both types of cells have clusters of pores known as sieve areas that are abundant on the overlapping ends of cells. These structures aid in the movement of carbohydrates, like sucrose, that are manufactured in the leaves and carried in the phloem throughout the plant, a process called translocation. Turgor pressure increases in the sieve tube members as sucrose from surrounding cells is brought into phloem through active transport. Water then enters phloem from xylem by osmosis, which drives the transport of carbohydrates in the phloem. Water movement in vessels is one way, while transport in sieve tube members can go in both directions. Water potential is an important driver in both xylem and phloem transport. But only phloem transport utilizes both active and passive transport. Our heart pumps blood throughout our bodies to provide nutrients and water to our cells. Vascular plants can accomplish this same feat without a heart.
Now here we will see the animal tissues, their types and their basic functions. Four main types of animal tissues are epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue and nervous tissue. And in figure you can see epithelial tissues are squamous epithelial tissue, or you can say squamous epithelium, cuboidal epithelium, columnar epithelium, ciliated epithelium and stratified squamous epithelium. Connective tissues are areolar tissue, adipose, skeletal, fluid. And muscular tissues are striated muscular tissue, smooth muscular tissue, cardiac tissue. And the last one is nervous tissue. Now we will see the details. Epithelial tissue is a simple tissue and it is a covering or protective tissue that is separated from underlying tissue by fibrous basement membrane, hence always grow on the others. movement in our body, there are three types of muscular tissue, that is stratified, unstratified and cardiac. Cells of muscular tissue are long and called muscle fiber. These muscle fiber, they have a special kind of protein which is called contractile protein, and this contractile protein help the muscles for contraction and relaxation. It means only this tissue have the ability for contraction and relaxation because of this contractile protein, and this ability of this tissue helps our body to move. This ability is not possessed by any other tissue in our body. Now first is stratified muscular tissue, and it is also known as skeletal muscular tissue or muscle fiber, or it is also known as voluntary muscle fibers. It is called striped and stratified muscles as they have light and dark bands or striations. Actually, when this muscle fiber or muscular tissue is observed under microscope, we can find dark and light bands, and that is why this tissue is called stratified muscular tissue. The muscles of this tissue are voluntary. We can move these muscles as per our wish, and so they are also known as voluntary muscles. And as they are voluntary, as it impart movement to our body, it is attached, these muscles are attached with the bones, and bones and muscles together help to move our body, and that's why they are also called skeletal muscles or skeletal muscular tissue. Now about the structure, you can see in this figure the stratified muscle fibers are cylindrical shape and they have more than one nucleus in the cell. They are unbranched. Okay, so long cylindrical shaped unbranched cell, multinucleated fibers arranged in the form of bundles and have dark and light bands. Now location. Location is limbs, tongue, body, face, neck. Working. Contract quickly but can't remain contracted for a longer time, so get fatigue and tired. Then next type of muscular tissue is unstrapped or unstraighted or involuntary muscle fiber. They are, when they are observed under microscope, no dark and light bands are found, so they are called unstraighted muscular tissue, and they are present in the body part where involuntary movement is there, means these muscles, we cannot move this muscle as per our wish. They move automatically throughout the life without our knowledge. The structure, you can see in this figure unstraighted muscles, their cells are long with pointed ends, and it has only one nucleus and they are not branched. So you can say the cells of smooth muscle fiber are elongated, you can say spindle shape with nucleus or possess only one nucleus, and they are unbranched. These fibers are arranged in the form of sheets, and their location is iris. Iris is present in our eye, then ureter, bronchi of lungs, alimentary canal, wall and blood vessels. So you know all these parts cannot be moved as per our wish. They move on their own, and so this tissue is also known as non-voluntary tissue or involuntary tissue. Working. Contract and relax. Contract slowly but can remain contracted for a long time, so don't get fatigued or tired. And the last tissue is cardiac muscular fiber. Now this cardiac muscular fiber, the name itself suggests that it is present in our heart. Cardiac muscular tissue shows rhythmic contraction and relaxation throughout the life and pump the blood. These tissues are present in our heart. The shape of this tissue is uh, long, cylindrical, uninucleated, and it is branched. Location is obviously on the walls of heart, and its working is contract quickly and rhythmically. Therefore, do not get fatigued or tired. This is very important tissue in our body, and it is present only in our heart. Nervous tissue. This is very important tissue. The cells of nervous tissue are called nerve cells or neurons. Many nerve cells are bound by connective tissue to make a nerve. Now, functions of nervous tissue. The cells of nervous tissue or the nervous tissue is highly specialized tissue that helps in transmitting stimuli from one place to another in the body and controls all the activities of the body. Now this how these stimuli are transmitted inside our body and how response is sent by the brain, that I will explain you by showing you a video after this slide. Now location of this tissue: brain, spinal cord and nerves are made up of nervous tissue. Structure. Its structure looks like a tree with branches coming out of it. A nerve or a neuron has three parts: a star-shaped body called cyton, which has nucleus and dense cytoplasm; a single long part called axon, which carries messages away from cyton; and short branch part called dendrites. This carry messages towards cyton. So this nervous tissue or neurons are very important in the functioning of our body. All the functions taking place in our body are actually due to this nervous tissue. This nervous tissue sends stimuli to our brain, and our brain send response to the to that stimuli to our body parts to work as per the stimuli. So now in the next video you will see how this nervous tissue works. So this is students, here we end our chapter. See you all. Bye.
The nervous tissue and its functions. If a person unknowingly touches a hot object like a kettle, she immediately pulls back her hand. Why does she do this? This happens as the receptors present in the fingers sense the heat from the kettle. The sensory nerves in the fingers absorb this impulse and transmit it to the spinal cord. From the spinal cord, this impulse passes to the motor neuron, which in turn passes this impulse to the affected muscle in the finger, and the person immediately removes her hand from the kettle. This whole process involves coordination among the nerve cells called neurons. These neurons are found inside the spinal cord and the brain. Now let's learn about neurons. A neuron consists of a cell body called soma. The soma is enclosed by the cell membrane and has a nucleus. There are several thin, thread-like extensions from the cell body called dendrites. The dendrites receive impulses from the adjoining neurons. The other extension from the cell body or soma is a single branched extension called an axon. Each axon is comprised of a cone-shaped base called an axon hillock that arises from the soma. At the other end, the axon is divided into many branches, from where the signal passing through the axon is transmitted to the other cell via a junction called a synapse. Thus, the information received by the dendrites and is then sent out through the axon to the neighboring cell. This is how information is transmitted from one cell to another. To summarize, if we unknowingly touch a hot object, we immediately pull our hand away from it. This process involves coordination among the nerve cells called neurons. A neuron consists of a cell body called soma.